And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel. Today we're taking a look at a game called Dream Crush, which does not particularly seem to be the kind of game that I would want to play. And indeed, necessarily is not the kind of game I want to play. But I saw it, I thought, this might be fun for a silly lark. I played it, here's how it plays, and then I'll tell you what I think. In each game of this, you're going to pick 3 random crushes from the top of the desk. So let's see here. We got Francis. Francis there. So maybe he's somebody that you would like to have a date with. You know, definitely he will keep it safe. Here we have Ray. Oh, I don't know, Francis. You got some competition here with Ray. And you'll put them at the top of each of these columns. And then finally we got Oakley. He looks like a nice chap, definitely not any kind of murderer or anything. So we have these 3 people here. Each person's going to get a score sheet. And you're going to play this one round at a time. First, you start with the pink row. So first we're getting acquainted with the person. So you're going to have to take fashion advice from this crush. So let's learn some about Francis. His nickname is Skillet. Of course it is. Ray does a really good impression of Nick Cage. Seems legit. And Oakley bikes everywhere and as a result is usually damp. So you're going to write down which one of these crushes you'd pick based on that information to go take fashion advice from. And then you're going to write down who you think everybody else will pick. Once it's done, everyone reveals and you get points. Then you go to the next one, Getting Wild. Now they ask you to a wine tasting. And Francis wants to buy a fan boat and give swamp tours in Florida. Ray doesn't want to ever get married. And Oakley just applied for a loan to open a board game cafe. Well, that's a bit on the nose. And then the next round, you must run the merch table while one crush's band plays. So Francis says, entered an amateur bodybuilding contest, Muscle and Fitness magazine. Ray talks about CrossFit a lot, even compared to most CrossFitters. And Oakley taxidermies mice and makes dioramas of famous movie scenes with them. That's more information. So again, at each round, you're doing the same thing, writing the one you'd pick based on all this information and who you think everyone else will pick. Getting Sticky. You must help pay off one crush's student loans. Well, maybe they don't have any. Drops $50 on Powerball tickets whenever the jackpot gets over $300 million, says Francis. Ray calls co-workers rock stars, and Oakley leaves lengthy voicemails. Fills up the whole thing. And then finally, the last round is Getting On. So here we have, you must go through couples counseling with one crush. So Francis, you find a notebook filled with their ideas for rap lyrics. Ray makes a whistling sound every time they breathe out their nose. And Oakley uses the phrase, at the end of the day, so often it's lost all meaning. Well, that's just rude. Anyhow, so you do this. Whoever scores the most points wins. And there is many, many different faces in here. Here we got Montana and Terry and Max and Charlie and Blaine and Cody. And you can see there's all sorts of people in these decks. And then there's also all sorts of cards in these decks. I should actually be talking about this in components. So anyway, continuing on, there's lots of cards here. Now, I will say most of the cards here are fairly sedate. There's some ones I guess maybe would be PG-13, but I wouldn't say that any of them are particularly egregious. This is not a game that's like, ooh, sold in the adult section of the bookstore, but they have stuff like marijuana or whatever it might be on these cards. But there's lots of them. You have 2 decks of cards, so each one's going to be different. You must entertain one crush's parents for a night. You must join their D&D campaign, spend the day organizing closets with them, training with them for a half marathon. There's all kinds of things here. So the combinations are huge. And like I said, there's just so many different people in here. And you're only using 3 of them per game. So there's quite a few opportunities for replayability here. One bad component of the game are the score sheets. There are not that many of them. And since you need 1 per player, this is kind of egregious. I don't want to have to print these out over and over and over again. There should have been 100 easy, at least, in the game. So that's a problem. I like the game. It's really stupid, but I liked it. Now, I will say this. There's a few variants in the rulebook, and one of them I kind of insist on playing, and I think it's fun to do it that way anyway. One of them is you turn the cards face down. You don't know who they are. You're just going by the names. And they deliberately picked names that it really are, there's not like, there's not Thomas per se, but we got Mel and Perry and Julian and Jordan and Dana and Justice and Destiny and Paige. Well, Paige seems, well, you know what? No, these are not necessarily what I expected to see on these people. So I like it better that way, and I'll tell you why. Because you can say don't judge a book by its cover. Everyone does. And it doesn't matter how many good qualities you might look at one person and go, I would not date that person. For whatever reasons. Yes, it's superficial, but it is what it is. I mean, and they deliberately made a lot of these people look like sleazy people. So I think that you should take how they look out, and also it's really fun at the end of the game and be like, and you're dating Blaine. And, well, here's Blaine. Were you expecting that? That's humorous. The game has to be taken very lightly, very lightly. Real loose. It's silly. I mean, I don't have crushes. I'm deeply and madly in love with my wife, so this doesn't mean anything to me. But it's fun for a silly lark, just trying to guess. You're kind of guessing more the irritations to somebody else. The bodybuilding tournament, that person enters that. That does not seem like Julian's thing, so I'm going to vote that he would not do that. And, spending all day on the beach till you get burned to a crisp, I don't think Susan would like that, so I think she's not going to pick that person. Stuff like that. It's pretty quick. It's pretty simple. It's pretty easy. It's more than just a teenager game, although I think teenagers might enjoy this one. You might be surprised. Definitely, if you're looking at this thinking, yeah, I'm not going to like it, you're not. But for those of you who might think it's worth just trying a silly party game, then you might want to get Dream Crush. It says a timeless fantasy dating game. I'm not so sure about that, but it's good, trashy fun. Dice Tower Judgment, approved for the right crowd.